Brachos Daf Memvav opens with a continued discussion of who is the correct one to lead the Birchas Hamazon. Gemara then slides into a discussion of Birchos Hareach, the special bracha that the guests say. Gemara then spends a while discussing which parts of Birchos Hamazon are actually included in the Zimun, which ones are needed for the Zimun, and which ones are not part of the Zimun. Gemara talks about the bracha of Hatoiv v'Hametiv at the end of Birchos Hamazon, whether it counts as deraisa or not. As an aside, the Gemara speaks about the bracha that is said after one loses a close relative. Then the Gemara discusses the proper etiquette for arranging the seating at a table, and for who should be the one to wash first, and who should be the one to lead Brachos Hamazon. So actually the Gemara opens and closes with the same discussion. The Gemara continues the discussion from the previous daf about who should be the one to lead the benching by quoting an incident that happened with Rav Zera. Rav Zera became sick, and his situation was severe. Rabbi Avo went to visit him, and he said that he's accepting upon himself that if Rabbi Zera is healed, if he recovers, he will make a Yom Tov, a holiday for the Rabbanon. He referred to Rabbi Zera by his nickname, the short one of the burnt thighs. So this nickname is explained elsewhere that Rabbi Zera once a month would sit in an oven to see if the fire would harm him, because he wanted to know if he would be susceptible to the fires of Gehenna, and he was never harmed by the fire except for one time when his legs were slightly burnt because somebody made an ayin hara on him, a bad eye. Somebody said something which caused a claim against him in heaven. Anyway, so Rabbi Zera recovered, so Rabbi Avo kept his word, and he made a Suda Seidah for all the Chachamim. So they were sitting at the Suda, and Rabbi Avo offered Rabbi Zera the honor of being the one to say the bracha on the bread for everybody. So Rabbi Zera said, but don't you hold of the statement of Rabbi Yochanan, that the one who says the bracha on the bread should be the master of the house, the host, the Baal Bayis. So Rabbi Avo opened the bread. Okay, then it came time for Birchos Hamazon. Rabbi Avo again said, Rabbi Zera, will you do the honors for us? And Rabbi Zera said, don't you hold of the statement of Mar of Rav Huna? From Rav Huna says that the one who says the bracha before the bread should be the one to say the bracha after the bread. He should be the one to lead the Birchos Hamazon. So now the Gemara asks, so what did Rabbi Avo hold? How come he didn't seem concerned about that? So the Gemara says he held like the following statement of Rabbi Yochanan named Rav Shimon ben Yochai, who says that the Baal Bayis, the host, should be the one to say the bracha on the bread, because he should give it out with a nice sized piece for everybody. You shouldn't be stingy with it, like a guest might be. However, a guest should be the one to lead the benching in order that he should be able to say the special bracha for the host while he's saying the benching. What's the bracha? The Gemara says it's as follows: may it be Hashem's will that this host not be embarrassed in this world, and should not be mortified in the world to come. Gemara says Rabbi added on to it, and he added, if he should be successful in all his property, let his property and our property be close to the city, in order that it should be easier for him to keep an eye on them. May the Satan not have any power over his activities nor our activities. Or perhaps may he never face any challenges of sin and wrongdoing. Now, in order to understand the next lengthy discussion that the Gemara embarks on, we need a bit of an introduction to the structure of Birchos Hamazon. Birchos Hamazon consists of three main brachos and two possible addition brachos, one before the three and one after the three. The three are, first of all, the bracha of Hazon, which is thanking Hashem for the food. Then there's the bracha of Al Ha'aretz V'Al HaMazon, which thanks HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Eretz Yisrael. And the last one is Bnei Yerushalayim, wishing for the rebuilding of Yerushalayim. Those three brachas are definitely midaraisa, they're Torah mandated. After that, we have a additional bracha, the fourth bracha we can say, which is Hatoiv HaMeitiv, which is discussing the victims of the Beitar massacre. It's in their memory. It is questionable whether this is a bracha d'oraisa or bracha d'rabbanan. It's a machlokes what it is. Besides, for those four, we add at the beginning, before all these four, we add the zimun which the Gemara considers to be another bracha. Now, the Gemara considers the possibility that the first of the three bracha set, the bracha of Hazan, thank Hashem for the food, is actually only said if there is a zimun present. If you don't have three people, that bracha is not said. The Gemara says it's a machlokes between two Amoraim. Rav Nachman says that it's not part of the zimun. You can say that bracha even if you don't have a zimun. And Rav Shesha says it is part of the zimun, and you can't say that first bracha unless you have three people there. So now the Gemara wants to say that this is actually a machlokes tanoim in a brisa. Because we have a brisa. One opinion says that Brachos Hamazon, the main brachos are sometimes two brachos, sometimes three brachos, and the other opinion says it's sometimes three, sometimes four. Now the sometimes obviously depends on whether you have a zimun there or not. So the Gemara wants to say as follows: the last bracha of Hatova Meitiv that nobody considers to be a real bracha, we're not counting that. So what's left? You got three brachos. According to the first opinion, you have two or three. If you have a zimun there, so you have three brachos because you say all three. And if you have no zimun, then you only say two because the first bracha is only said when you have a zimun there. That would be the first opinion in the Brisa. And the second opinion in the Brisa, which says 3-4, obviously holds that you have four brachas when there is a zimun, because you say the zimun bracha plus the three. Well, you don't have a zimun, so you only leave out the zimun bracha, but the bracha of Hazan is part of the three bracha set that you say even without a zimun, so you have three brachas. So it's either 3 or 4. Now the Gemara rejects the comparison of this brisa to our machlokes. The Gemara says no. The two opinions in our machlokes will say that both opinions in the brisa can agree to him. How so? So Rav Nachman, who says that Hazan is not part of the zimun, and you could always say Hazan even if you don't have a zimun, will say as follows. The opinion that says 3-4, that makes perfect sense. When you don't have a zimun, you say 3 brachos. When you do have a zimun, you add the zimun bracha, you got 4 brachos. Why does the other opinion have one less? Because he's going with the Birchas HaPolim. The workers who don't have a lot of time because they need to be at work, they combine the bracha on Yerushalayim and the bracha on Eretz Yisrael into one. So they have one bracha less. Instead of 3-4, they have 2-3. Now, Rav Sheshes will say as follows. Rav Sheshes holds that the bracha of Hazan, the first of the three, is also only recited when you have a zimun there. So that fits perfectly with the opinion that it's 2-3. It's 2 when you don't have a zimun, it's 3 when you have the zimun. However, when you have the other opinion, says you have an additional bracha. What's the additional one? He's talking about the bracha of Hatova Meitiv. He holds that it is a bracha d'oraisa and it counts as a real bracha, and that's why you have 3-4. Now, having brought up the discussion as to whether the bracha of Hatov v'Hameitiv, the fourth one, as to whether or not that's a bracha d'oraisa or d'Rabbanan, the Gemara now brings 3 Amoraim who say that they have proofs that it's actually a bracha d'Rabbanan and it doesn't count as a d'oraisa bracha. The 3 proofs are as follows. First of all, we have Rav Yosef, who says what the fact that the workers don't say it proves that it doesn't count as a real bracha. Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta says the name of Rav. I can have another proof. The proof is that it starts with a Baruch Atah Hashem. Why does that prove something? Because if it was part of the chain of brachos, it wouldn't start with its own bracha, with its own Baruch Atah Hashem. It would only end with that, because the bracha before it ends with Baruch Atah Hashem. So you don't need one Baruch Atah Hashem right after another. The only reason why it starts with a Baruch Atah Hashem is because it's not connected to the bracha before. The bracha before is considered bracha d'oraisa. This is a totally different thing, and therefore it has to start with its own Baruch Atah Hashem. In order to support this, Umar quotes a brisa, which discusses which brachos start with Baruch Atah Hashem, which brachos end with Baruch Atah Hashem. So the brachos says as follows. Most brachos out there have what's called a psicha and a chasima. They open and close with a Baruch Atah Hashem. Some open but don't close, and some close but don't open. What are those? So as follows. Brachos on fruits and brachos on mitzvos start with a bracha. They don't have a separate bracha at the end of them. The bracha at the end of Kriya Shema ends with a baruch. It doesn't start with it. And then we have something called bracha smucha l'chaverta. A bracha which is part of a chain of brachos doesn't start with a baruch because the bracha before it just ended with a baruch. Now, that being the case, Hatova Meitiv, if it was part of the chain of the brachos, shouldn't start with a baruch, but it does. That indicates it's not part of the chain and it doesn't count as one of the brachos. Third proof that bracha of Hatova Meitiv is not a real bracha d'oraisa comes from Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, who says in a house of mourning, a Beis Ha'avil, they don't say it. Oh, is that agreed? The Gemara says it's a machlokes. We have a machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and a Tanna Kama, what you say in a house of mourning. The Tanna Kama says you say Hateva Meitiv. Rabbi Akiva says you say Baruch Dayan Emes. The Gemara says, what do you mean? You say Hateva Meitiv, you don't say Baruch Dayan Emes, according to the first opinion. The Gemara says, no, you say even Hateva Meitiv. Meaning the machlokes is, do you say Hateva Meitiv or not? Everybody agrees you say Dayan Emes. According to Rabbi Akiva, you don't say Hateva Meitiv, proving that it's not a real bracha. Now, the Gemara quotes an incident regarding this. The Gemara says that Mar Zutra was visiting the house of Rav Ashi, and he became in Avel. Somebody in his family passed away. So he said the bracha of Dayan Emes, but he said it in a very lengthy manner, and he said as follows. He said, Baruch HaToiv v'Hameitiv. Blessed is the one who is good and does good. Kel Emes, the God of truth, the true judge. Shofet b'tzedek, who judges fairly. Lokech b'mishpat, and he takes everything into justice. V'shalat b'olamay lasses b'kurtzayna, he rules over the world to do as is his will. Kichol d'rochav mishpat, all his ways are just. Shachol shalei, everything is his. V'nachnu ami, we are as people v'avodav, and his servants. So we have to thank him for everything, and to bless him. Yisrael, he who closes the breaches of the Jewish people. He will close this breach by Yisrael amongst the Jews, l'chaim, for life. Now the Gemara asks, according to Rav Sheshes, who said that the bracha of Hazan, the first of the three, is part of a zimun. So we learned earlier that if you have three people eating together and two of them would like to say Brachos Hazan, the other one has to stop and answer along with them. So he's going to have to listen to the whole thing all the way until the bracha of Hazan. He has to be to the bracha of Hazan with them. So the question is, when he goes back to bench on his own, what does he say? Does he say Hazan or not? So the Gemara says it's a machlokes. Rav Zvid, the name of Abaye, says he has to go back and say the entire Brachos Hamazon, and the Rabbanon say he only has to go back to the place that he stopped, meaning he doesn't have to say Hazan. And the Gemara says, and that is indeed the halacha. Okay, now having discussed the customs of who is the one to bench for everyone else, the Gemara now launches into a discussion of a number of other customs that present proper table etiquette when you have one person who is clearly the leader and greater than the other. So the Gemara says as follows. The Reish Galusa, the leader of the exile community, said to Rav Sheshes, he said, even though you rabbis are old, and you're obviously wise, the Persians have better table manners than you do. How do you know? Because look how they set up their table. In those days, everybody used to sit at the table. They didn't actually sit, they reclined on couches. So how are the couches arranged? So it's as follows. If you had two people that were eating there, so you had the greater on one couch, and the next one was above him, meaning his couch was on the side of the greater person's head. So it was on his head side. And if you had three people, so the greater was in the middle, the second one was on the head side, and the third ranked was on the foot side of the greater individual who was in the middle. So the Gemara says that Rav Sheshes answered him, and he said that's not a good way to set things up. But what happens if the greater one wants to speak to the second? Since he's on his head side, he can't see him. He's behind his head. He can't twist his head around to actually see him and speak to him. So he's going to have to sit up straight in order to be able to speak to him. That's not respectful. So the Reish Galusa said to him, no, that the Persians don't have the problem. They talk with their hands a lot. They're always doing hand motions and everything. They don't have to see each other. They can just see each other's hands. Okay, then he asked, and how do they wash? What's the order of the washing? So the Reish Galusa said they have the first one, the greater person, wash first. So Rav Sheshes said, how does that make sense? That means that he has to sit there staring at his hands to make sure that they stay washed until everybody else finishes. That's not respectful to him. So the Reish Galusa answered, no, they bring him the table right away. In those days, everyone had their own small table that was near their couch. So they bring him his table right away. He doesn't wait for everybody else to wash. He washes first, and he can start eating right away. Then Rav Sheshes asked, how do these Persians do the washing at the end? So he said, well, the smallest person in the event washes first, and the greatest one washes last. So Rav Sheshes says, what do you mean? He has to sit there after finished eating with filthy hands until they bring him the water to wash because everybody else is finished? That doesn't make sense. So the Reish Kusan answered, no, he doesn't stop eating. He keeps on eating. He has his table with him, and he keeps it until everybody else finishes washing. Then he stops, and they take his table away, and he washes right away. So Rav Sheshes said, listen, I don't know how you guys do it. That's not how we do it. We have a brisa that describes the proper way of doing things, which as follows. The brisa says when you have two people, so you put the second person on the foot side of the greater person. That way he can speak to him. He doesn't have to twist his head around. If you have three people, so the greatest one is in the middle, the second one is on his head side, and the third one is on the foot side. It's like that because you can't have the third one be on the head side, which is a greater position than the second one. Washing before the meal, the greater person washes first. Washing at the end of the meal, we do as follows. If there are 5 people there, you start from the greater one. If you have more than 5, so you start from the smallest one until there are only 5 people left, including the greater one. Then it goes to the greater one, and then afterwards to the next 5. Rashi explains the reason for this arrangement is that we don't want the greater person, the leader, to have to wait for everybody else to wash without anything to do, because you've already removed his table. So what happens is that he keeps his table while everybody else washes, and then when he got 5 people left, he has his table removed then, and then he's the first one to wash of that group of 5. Now the Gemara says it's possible that he will actually give the honor of washing first of the 5 to someone else. Whoever it is that is honored with washing first, either himself or someone else, he should be the one to lead the Brachos Hamazon. The Gemara says this seems to support a statement of Rav Chia bar Ashi, the name of Rav, who said that that's how you do it. The one who is the first of the last set of 5 to wash, he's the one who leads Brachos Hamazon. Now the Gemara quotes an incident which we saw before. The Gemara says that Rav and Rabbi Chia were having a Suda together with Rabbi, and Rabbi said to Rav, get up, wash your hands. So they saw that he was nervous. He was afraid that he messed up somehow. Maybe he ate too much or his hands were dirty. The Gemara says that they said to him, no, you're a great one, and all he meant to say to you was that he is honoring you with leading the Brachos Hamazon because you're going to be the first one of the group to wash.